with no further ado, we can begin. So welcome everyone. First of all, Happy New Year. This is our first Lakar session of this year. So briefly about online Tibetan education. Oh, sorry. I have to, oh, recording has begun. Yep, sorry. So my name is Tenzin Wooden. I'm one of the members of Online Tibetan Education, and Online Tibetan Education has been around for almost 10 years. We began with the purpose of providing virtual classes for Tibetan youth, as well as anyone else interested in Tibetan culture, language, as well as the religion. So we provide Sunday Tibetan language, Tibetan Buddhism sessions, and we also provide Tibetan language programs, and for cultural sessions, we provide monthly Lakar sessions such as this one. So welcome everyone for joining us. So with no further ado, I'd like to introduce Rinpoche Siling Tongkor Rinpoche. Rinpoche is from Sarah May Monastery and is a frequent speaker and teacher on Buddhism, compassion, and humanity. He received monastic ordination, rare transmission, blessings, and empowerments from His Holiness the Dalai Lama and 16 other spiritual teachers. After receiving his Geisha degree at Saramay, he enrolled at the Kyoto Tantric College in Dharamsala to complete his studies on esoteric Tantra in 2016. And today we have Rinpoche, who will provide us an introduction on Pardo and an understanding about Pardo. So thank you all for joining us. Last Rinpoche.
And greetings to everyone, and especially for the upcoming, for the new year, the Western New Year, which has just passed, and also the upcoming Tibetan New Year. Okay, so I think we can start.
Lao Rinpoche. Yep.
Yes. Lasso. So, whatever activity we do, we usually, as a Buddhist practitioner, we usually started with a proper motivation, and today also we will start with proper bodhisattva motivation, which is to attain enlightenment for the sake of other sentient beings. So those of you who know the Sangha Chodama, please say it with me. Sangye Chodam, Zoye Chonam La, Janjo Bardo, Dane, Gyabzo. Ye Jiso Yibe Sunam Ye Jola Benje Sangye Jobora Sho Sangye Chodam, Zoye Chonam La, Janjo Bardo, Dane, Gyabzo. Ye Jiso Yibe Sunam Ye Jola Benje Sangye Jobora Sho Sangye Chodam, Zoye Chonam Chanjo Balo Lani Gyabzo Jin Dagye Jinso Yebe Sanam Ye Jala Benjire San Ye Jo Bala Sho. Oh, Lasso. So, as within our state, the Tibetan online Tibetan education, I think a week ago or so, asked me to dwell on the subject of death, or the process of death, process of dying, or also known as the introduction into Pardo, the intermediary state. So whether in religious circles or otherwise, death is a very important. It is a very important as well as a curious subject, a curious matter, and so we can talk a lot about death. There's a lot to discuss with or without further knowledge. So even though we have been living and dying and living and dying for a countless number of times, but few of us do remember our death. So, and I am also one of them. So I don't remember, even though I have lived and died countless number of times in the samsaric world, I don't remember my death. So since I do not have a personal recollection of what happened, I will try to explain it from the more of an academic point of view through the Buddhist scriptural or philosophical view or understanding of the process of dying, death, or life in general. So life and death sort of balances each other out. Because of life, there is death, and because of death, there is life. If there's no death, if there's no end to life, then life would be known in an altogether different scenario. The life would be totally different from how we know it. We would have understood life in a totally different manner. Since there is death, since there is an end to life, so we cherish our lives, and also in the Buddha Dharma, in Buddhism, life, especially the human life, is cherished. Is also known, is called, regarded as a precious human life, and
Rinpoche Konda, the audio is a little soft on your end, so
I see.
it goes in and out. So maybe if Rinpoche tis chesla sungtuna. Rinpoche Koiminda, we can't hear you.
Sing it away.
No.
Okay.
Much better now.
Sorry for my internet is not that, the signal is quite weak here. Is it better now? A little bit better?
Yep, it's much better, good, Rinpoche.
Oh, okay. So the importance or the preciousness of death, preciousness of life comes from death, because there's an end to life. Life is cherished, because there is. So it is. I always use the analogy of the sales going on in the shop. So when there is a sale, limited sales for a limited period, people just flock there and buy stuff, and because the sale goes on for just one day or maybe a week, so all the people goes there to buy stuff, because it doesn't stay longer than that. So the limitation also makes life's limitation, which we can, let's say death is the limitation of the life. Death limits life, and it's the limitation of life which makes life much more precious, much more cherishable, and so on. Now, as I said, to understand death, it is important to understand life. and then life's transitioning from the living to the dying. That is the process of dying, or the stage of the intermediary stage, the intermediate stage of Pardo, as you all know. And so to understand life, or life force, in Tibetan we call it so, so, life force. So life force is understood in Tibetan, understood in the sutras, and understood in the sutras as the span of time. It is said from the treasure of knowledge by Acharya Vasubandhu. He said, "Soni tsin tredani namshi tenkan himbos," which means that life force is the basis upon which life as well as heat are based upon. So as long as there is life, especially in the form realms, form and the desire realms, there should be heat, there is heat. And then, of course, whether you are born in the either of the three realms, you will have consciousness. So life force is the basis for heat and the consciousness. So the life force is the basis upon which life or span of time, in Tibetan we say tse. Tse is known as life, but it is also a term used for time, span of time. So so we can understand life in one sense. You can understand life as a span of time. So you have think of that in terms of a battery. So when you have a battery up to 80%, 40% like that, then as you consume, as you use your gadget, the battery starts to decrease, and that form of that process of decreasing battery life, as you use the object, as you use the gadget, that is actually the decrease of life, or in other words, the process of dying. So from the moment we were born, the very next moment after we were born, we we are in the process of dying. So normally when we talk about in our casual talks, we think of the process of dying at the very, very, very end. So when someone is at the deathbed, then we think, okay, they are in the dying process. But according to the Buddhist philosophy, uh, the, the process of dying starts the moment, the next moment after you were born. Because the battery life starts decreasing right after you plug it off and you unplug it from the socket. So in that manner, the life can be understood as a tse, meaning a span of time. So life is a span of time that actually is the basis for heat and consciousness. As long as the body remains, as long as our body remains. So there are three realms, right? The desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm. In the formless realm, of course, there's no form, but in the form realm and the desire realm, we all have forms. We all have bodies. And as long as there is a body, whether it is a subtle body or a coarser level of body, you will have heat. And then, of course, you will have consciousness as long as you are alive. I mean, whether you are alive or dead, you will always have consciousness, because consciousness is the instrument which passes from living to the death, from the living to the death, to the death to the living. Normally, when we say someone is dying or dead, we are usually referring to the body being dead, not the consciousness. The consciousness remains and is the instrument which transitions which migrates from the death to the living, from the corpse to the living body. So in that process, life in the Buddhist philosophy is something, life is the span of time that is the basis for heat and consciousness. Now, according to Buddhist cosmology, the evolution of life begins from what we call the eons. So eon is a very relatively long span of time, an eon, a kalpa. So, okay, so before, I think it's important to lay out a few basic things here first. The first thing is that in Buddhism, there is no, life has no beginning. Life is beginningless. And time, therefore, is timeless. So there is, one cannot say time began there. Of course, human beings start calculating at a certain time that, okay, this is the time of, this is the time our Lord Jesus died, or this is the time our Lord Buddha passed away. And so from now onwards, we will start calculating our days and our months and our years. And so it's 2021, 2600 something, and so on and so forth. But objectively speaking, time itself is timeless. Time is a concept that human beings created. And according to their own belief and their own, of course, I'm not saying it is not truth-based, it is, but it is a concept that is created by human beings. And so in that matter, time in general is timeless. Time is timeless in the sense that there is no beginning of time, and there is no end to time itself in general. So we talk about the when we talk about evolution of the world, evolution of the universe, or evolution of the time in general, we are actually referring to an individual eon in Buddhist cosmology. So so within an eon is a relatively long span of time, usually amounting to thousands of millions of years. So within one eon, there would be the beginning, there would be the middle, and there would be the end, or in other words, the creation or the development of the creation and development stages of the eon, and then the remaining time of the eon, then the dissolution of the eon. So in Tibetan, chagil, chabekeba, which is the creation, developing stage, then the pargil, which is the middle stage, and then the jigil, jiba, destruction or dissolution. So the pargil is the remaining span of the eon, and that is a very, very, very long span of time. So according to Buddhist cosmology, what happens is this, within, as we said earlier, in general, time itself is timeless. There is no beginning of life. But within a certain individual kalpa or eon, there is the beginning, there is the middle, and then there is the end. So normally when we talk about evolution of time, we are referring to a certain kalpa, not time in general, because time in general is timeless. So within a particular span of kalpa, within a particular kalpa, there is the beginning, there is the middle, and there is the end. So what happened is, in the beginning of the kalpas, of course, due to our karma, there are human beings, there are human beings, and there are gods and all that. So in the very beginning of the kalpas, in the very early times, in simpler terms, let's say in the very early times, in the very early stages of human life, all human beings were born through apparition, magically born, if you like. So we're born through apparition, so there is no process of labor and so on and so forth. And all human beings, due to in the first kalpa, in the very early stages of the kalpa, of the eon, the human beings, the life of the human beings were uh, well, magical. So one does not have to rely on raw food. By raw food, I mean coarse food, that consumable food, um, munchable foods, morsel that you can eat by through morsel by morsel. So the human beings does not need to rely on raw foods. Human beings does not need to rely on gross foods. They can fly. Um, they have a natural glow on their skin and so on and so forth. And as time continued, what happened was that the imprint, um, the imprint, the imprint left by desire to eat raw food, um, which has been lying in the dormant stage, or in other, in simple terms, in subconscious stage for for a long time, starts to surface. So it is no longer remaining in the dormant state. So human beings start developing the desire to eat raw food. And as that happened, we start eating raw food. The need for the orifices, the need for objects, the instruments, to um, to do away with all uh, the the leftover of what we have eaten, what we have consumed, also start to protrude. So, in other words, the male organ and the female organ starts to protrude. And as these organs came out, the desire to engage in activities involving those two, um, the human, the male and female organs, the desire to engage in activities involving the male and female organs also start developing, also came out from the dominant state, or in other words, the desire to have sexual intercourse also came out from the subconscious state. And from that, the human beings start copulating, and then of course, after some time, the womb start developing. So before that, as I said earlier, in the very early stages of the kalpa, human beings always apparate. So they are magically born. They do not, when you are born in the human realm, you do not have to be, you do not need an actual father or mother. So after these stages, the womb starts developing, and the child is born through the womb, and so on and so forth. And when that happened, now the process of since we human beings are born through the womb born, womb born. So the human beings from this planet, or this universe, is called Jambudvipa, the humans from the Jambudvipa. So people from this planet are have the what in Tibetan we call Ngelke Kamchukde. So we have the 6 elements. We are endowed with the 6 elements, and we have the we are regarded as Ngelke Kamchukde, womb born, endowed with 6 elements. So the 6 elements in the grosser form can be understood as the 3-form father and the 3-form mother. The 3-form father being bone marrow, and essence, or semen or droppings. And then from the mother, we have the skin, we have the flesh, we have the skin, and we have the blood from the mother. So, and that is a human being which is endowed with the six elements. So this is the six elements in the crosser sense, or in the much more subtle scenario, we have the six elements are regarded as the earth element, the water element, the fire element, and then the element of the channels. So the channels are, in Tibetan, we use a term called za. So za is literally translated, of course, as the veins. But here we can have to understand the veins in the, we can understand the veins, the za, in a much grosser level as the za that we can see, much more tangible. And then there is the more subtle form of the za, which is something that we cannot see with our naked eyes, but it still acts as a channel for our energies to pass through. So in that sense, the za, or the channel, can be understood as not just as the veins, but the more subtle channel which exists within the veins. And then we have the tigle, which is the essence, which can be understood as essence or the droppings. So the four elements in general, plus the channel, the elements of the channel, and the elements of the essence, that makes up the six elements in the more subtle form. So in this, so when a human being, so death, the process of death happens differently to different people. I mean, to different people, in the sense of different beings. For if you are a god, or if you are if you are born in the god realm, or if you are born in the hell realm, you still the process of birth and the process of death is such an apparition and disapparition. So you just appear all of a sudden. So magically born and magically death. So there is no process of the stages. There's no process of dying similar to that of the human being. So when we talk about the process of death, we are referring to the death process of dying in the human realm. So in the human realm, we have what happened during the time of death is at the time of death, all the energies, all the air energy, lung. So all the at the time, all the air energies, all the air energies, the lung energy, the air energy, the wind energy, which is actually which covers all of our body, starts collecting. So when we start, in Tibetan we use the word collecting, duba, which is to be understood as dissolve. So at the time of death, all the energies that has covering the breadth and length of our body starts collecting or starts dissolving into the center of our heart. So at the heart there is the eight-petaled channel, a channel like a lotus with 8 petals, and it's a very subtle and tiny channel, and to that channel all the wind is collected, all the wind energy is collected, all the wind energy dissolves into that, and then we die. So so as a human being, we have the 72,000 types of channels. 72,000 types of channels. 72,000 types of channels that is covering the whole length and breadth of our body. And at the time of death, all these 72,000 channels are collected into the three main channels, actually to the two main channels first. So the three main channels are called Lalana, Rasana, and Avaduti, or in Tibetan, the Uma, which is at the center, and Roma and Kyangma at left and right. So all the wind energies, all the wind energy that is covering the length and breadth of the body starts collecting into the two main channels in one's body, and they also dissolve into the Avaduti, the main channel in the center, and that channel actually dissolves into the heart chakra at the core of one's heart, at the core of one's chest, and when that the core chakra diminishes, then what is known as the Chisim Tamo, the subtle mind of death, subtle death mind, subtle death consciousness arises, and then one passes into death itself. So in this regard, we will talk about the process of dying, how the dissolution of each and how the dissolution process happens at each stage, of how the each elements, how the dissolution happens, and the process of dissolution itself. So the process of dissolution happens through a process known as Rakpa Nyanga. So Rakpa is gross or coarse, and Nyanga is Nishusenga, 25. So there are 25 phenomena, 25 gross phenomena, or 25 coarse phenomena, through the dissolution of which, through the dissolution of the 25 coarse phenomena, a human being, the process of human death happens. So the process of human death occurs through the process of dissolution of the 25 coarse phenomena. Okay, so the 25 coarse phenomena are, briefly speaking, there are the 5 heaps, 4 elements, 6 sensory objects or sense spheres, and 5 objects, and then the 5 basic or fundamental wisdoms. So the 5, so these are the 25 gross phenomena. So the 5 heaps or 5 bodies, pungbonga, that is suk, sorwa, dushe, duje, number sheba. Suk is form, sorwa is feeling, dushe is discernment or discrimination, being able to discriminate right and wrong, white and blue, discernment. Then duje, compositional factors, and then consciousness. So usually, so this is the 5 heaps or 5 elements, and then you have the 4 elements. So the 5 heaps or 5 bodies, and then 4 elements. The 4 elements are, of course, fire, water, earth, Sachu Melung, earth, water, fire, and wind. That is the 4 elements. Then you have the 6 sense spheres, Gemchetu. So then from the eye to the consciousness, the eye sphere, or you might say, to put it more simply, you can say the eye organ, the nose organ, and so on and so forth, like that. So we have the 5: the eye, the taste, the nose, the ear, the touch, and the consciousness. So the organs for that. So the organs act as the basis for the five senses or the six senses to function. Then we have the five objects. So five objects are actually five objects are the objects of the five senses. So you have the eye sees the form. You have the ear hears the sound. So like that, form, sound, sukja, smell, chi, ro, taste, rekja, touch. So the five elements, five objects of the five senses. And then we have the yixing, the five wisdoms, um, five wisdoms of the five fundamental wisdoms or five basic wisdom. So the reason it's called fundamental or basic is because it's not a real wisdom. The actual five wisdom actually lies with the one attains the five wisdoms when one is completely enlightened. So in our ordinary stages, in the stages that we are currently in, we have the five basic wisdoms, and so that is the wisdom of the Tamidatu, the wisdom of you might say wisdom of truth, then the wisdom of mirror, the wisdom of equality, the wisdom of discernment, and the all accomplishing wisdom. So in Tibetan, Chuing Yeshe, Melong Yeshe, Nyemni Yeshe, and Sordo Yeshe, Chadu Yeshe. So these are the 25 gross phenomena, and so in the very the five gross of the 25 gross phenomena. In the beginning, the gross phenomena from the form aspect, the form side. So form, usually when we say form, the form is the beginning of all the objects, because when we say sugne namkepar, we usually refer to, when we want to say, so this is similar to saying from A to Z in English. So form is the beginning of all the, form is the coarsest of all objects of knowledge, of all the objects of knowledge. Form is the coarsest one. And then you have the most subtle one, which is the omniscient mind. So when we say in Tibetan, from the form to the omniscient mind, that means from A to Z, basically. So we start with the suk, we start with the form. So from the form aspect, first, the first dissolution begins with the form itself, the hip form, and then the mirror-like wisdom. Then from the element side, we have the earth element, and from the organ side, we have the eye organs, and then from the object side, we have the form in the sense of an object. So when we say form, the heap of the form, right? Sogi Pungbo, that means the body itself. And now when we say, so there is the Sogi Pungbo as in the body itself, in the subject sense, and then we have the Sogi Pungbo in the object sense. It's object in the sense that since the when the eye organ dissolves, the object of the eye, which is the form, external forms, also starts dissolving, or the clarity of which we are able to discern and to see to those objects start to diminish. So what happens is the first stages of the dissolution at the time of death. Okay, let's say this. So there are two types of death. One is sudden death, and then there is the gradual death, a normal death. So sudden death is, of course, dying through accidents, being killed by someone all of a sudden, and so on and so forth. So when you are killed by someone, when your life is cut off abruptly, then these processes does not happen. So only when you are having a gradual death, either through a healthy life or through an unhealthy life, if you are dying with disease, sickness, and so on and so forth, you will have this gradual process. So so when you are dying gradually, uh, these stages occur. So the first stages of the dissolution is known as the dissolution of the heaps, um, dissolution of the form, dissolution of the form, the dissolution of the form aspects. So within the dissolution of the form aspect, you have the from the heap, you have the form heap. From the side, you have the mirror-like wisdom. From the element side, you have the earth element. From organ side, you have the eye organ. From the object side, you have the external forms as your object. And so they all start dissolve. So of the four elements in general, the very first thing is the very first element to dissolve is the earth element. So earth is usually seen as earth and ground are usually seen as stable, sturdy, and so on and so forth. So when the earth element start dissolving, the body start losing its firmness. And as the fundamental, from the wisdom side, the fundamental wisdom of mirror dissolves. The fundamental, the mirror-like wisdom usually is able to see everything as clear as things are displayed in a mirror. So the fundamental wisdom, the ordinary wisdom, I think it's to put it better that way, to ordinary wisdom, to ordinary mirror-like wisdom, to ordinary wisdom of mirror. So the ordinary mirror, you are not able to see things clearly outside. So you're not, so everything starts to become fuzzy. This is the sign of the mirror-like wisdom dissolving. And because your eye organs are dissolving, you're not able to see clearly, and because of your form body, your form heap is dissolving, your body start losing its firmness, and so on and so forth. And also, you will see when people are dying, they start to sort of like crumple, and that is also the sign of the earth element dissolving. So in the Tibetan, we use a term called Sachulatim, Chumelatim, Melungatim, Lunamgalatim, Nawanamshilatim, like that. So the earth dissolves into the water dissolves into the fire, and so on and so forth. So this is not to be taken literally. It doesn't mean the earth element actually dissolves into the fire element, and so on and so forth. What is to be understood is that the earth element loses its grip, and so therefore the next element, which after the sun after the earth there's the water. So the next element, the element next to what has immediately what has just now been dissolved is enhanced. So then we call that dissolution of earth into the water, dissolution of water into the fire. So actually the fire does not dissolve into water. What just happens is the earth element diminishes and the water element enhances. So normally when we have to concentrate on something, we usually cup our ears like that and start focusing on something. So when all the other organs are muted, then the organ that is not muted, the organ that is still open, is usually much more accentuated. So in that manner, this is regarded as the dissolution of the earth. And so during the dissolution of the earth, the signs for which are when the earth element is dissolved, the body starts to crumple, we become, body starts becoming much more feeble than before, and so on and so forth. And as a sign for the wisdom, the fundamental wisdom of mirror, the mirror-like wisdom, as the sign for dissolution of the mirror-like wisdom. Once one is not able to see things clearly, everything becomes fuzzy, and so on and so forth. And at that time, all these are external signs. That is something that we can see. Oh, okay, the person who is dying is not able to see things clearly. The person who is dying is become feeble, and so on and so forth. And for the person, the dying person himself, what happens at that time is the internal signs for the dying person at the time of dissolution of the earth element. What happens is they have the perception or appearance, nawa, appearance or perception of appearance of mirage, so so since everything becomes fuzzy, everything becomes a little bit woozy and fuzzy, so things start to appear in a little bit like not exactly, but things start appearing like in a mirage-like scene. So mirages usually happen when you are in a very hot place with a lot the objects that is in front of you start moving and shaking a little bit, right? So similarly, all things become fuzzy and a little bit shaky, and so this is the internal sign of your internal sign for the dying person, that your body, the form body is dissolving. The wisdom of mirror-like wisdom is dissolving. The earth element is dissolving. The eye organs are dissolving, and the form objects are dissolving, and so on and so forth. And so this is the first sign, first internal sign. This is called the sign, mirage-like sign. So you will have that fuzzy sort of appearance, that fuzzy sort of perception at time of at that stage. The next is known as Sachulatim. So the earth element now dissolves into the water element. So as I said before, it doesn't literally dissolve into the water element, but the earth element loses its grip, and the water elements sort of the powers are enhanced. So in that process, this is known as the we have of the five bodies, we have the five bodies, we have the form body, right? So the form body dissolution already happened. So next is the Suktsora, the dissolution of the feelings, dissolution of the feelings, the feeling body. So body here is to be understood in a figurative way. So normally when a lot of things are collected together, we call that body, right? So it is in that sense, not in a physical body sense, but in the sense of everything put together, an amalgamation. That is what is known as pungbo, or heap, or body. So body here is understood as amalgamation. So of the five amalgamation, or the five bodies, five heaps, dissolution of the form already happened. Now, next is the dissolution of the feelings or emotions. So at that time, of course, uh, from the five heaps, the heap of emotions, heap of feelings subside. And because of, at that time, the signs of the heap of feelings dissolving is that you're not able to feel any strong amount of any strong sense of happiness, pleasure, any strong sense of pleasure or displeasure, or um, uh, stillness. So there is no longer, so everything becomes you have the Tsoa, the feelings. There are the three types of feelings: pleasure, displeasure, and equality or stillness. So all these, so you are no longer able to feel anything. It's not like you are feeling equality. You're not even feeling that. Everything becomes still. So this is the internal sign of your feelings subsiding. Then then of the five wisdoms, the Nyamyeshe, the wisdom of equality, subsides, and therefore everything. So you're not able to feel anything. You are not able to recollect the feeling of anything, as an internal sign of the five elements subsiding, dissolving, and then. Uh, at that time of the elements, the earth, the water element is dissolving. So earth element has dissolved into the water element, and the water element is now will dissolve into the fire element, which will come up next. And as the earth element, the water element dissolves, moisture within the body will start uh, decreasing. So at the time, the patient may the sick person, the dying person, will experience an acute thirst. So there will no longer be much saliva left in the in the mouth, and then there will be no sweat will decrease, uh, urine will decrease, and so on and so forth. And of the five organs, the ear organ dissolves. And because of that, you are not able to hear things clearly. Before that, you are not able to see things clearly. Now you're not able to hear things clearly. And you're not able to hear things clearly, and you are the object of the ear, which is sound. Sound becomes fuzzy to you. And then at that time, the internal sign is known as Tua Devinawa. Tua is like smoky. So before it's just fuzzy. Now things becoming much more clouded, and it becomes smoky. So internal sign at that stage, at the stage of water dissolving into fire, is that of smokiness. Everything becomes not just fuzzy, but it also becomes more cloudy with smokiness. And so next is the dissolution of the fire into the air. And then at that time, of the five bodies or the five heaps, the heap of discernment, the body of discernment, dissolves. And at that time, you're not able to discern who is who. Some of us lose that very much early, like when we have the Alzheimer's, so we are not able to recognize people that are close and close to you, your loved ones, so on and so forth. So you're not able to discern who is your enemy, who is your friend, who is good, who is bad, all this. So the power of discernment decreases. as a sign of dissolution of the um, discernment body. And at of the five wisdoms, you are losing, or the dissolution of the sordo-ishi happens. Sordo-ishi is discernment, uh, wisdom of discernment, um, wisdom of discernment at the fundamental wisdom of discernment. So when we say fundamental, we are actually referring to the ordinary stage, not at the Buddha stage, so enlightened stage. So so at that time you're not able to recognize your parents or your daughter, children, and so on and so forth, as the internal sign of losing the discernment wisdom. And because now the fire element has dissolved into the water element, so the fire element is decreasing. And since the fire element is decreasing, you start losing heat within your body. And also you're not able to smell things because you're using the nasal olfactory sensors. And also because of that, due to that fact, your um, uh, breathing process also becomes much weaker and weaker. And at that time, the internal sign is known as Kanang Tebino. Kanang is the firefly, right? So at that time, everything seems to have sunken a lot. So before there was just fuzziness, then there was smokiness, which has become a little bit darker, and now it's much more dark. So the fireflies usually appear at the dusk. So things have become much more darker, and so you have the flashes of the fireflies. So when the fireflies appear, usually it's quite dark already. So you have that appearance internally. And after that is the dissolution of the Dujigi Pumbo, which is the dissolution of the compositional factors. And that is dissolution of the water into the air, water into the wind energy. So at that time, when the compositional factor, compositional heap, the heap of the compositional factor, Dujigi Pumbo, of the five heaps, the compositional factor decreases, you are not able to move. Agility decreases, movement decreases, because now the body is not composed firmly. And at that time, also the all of the five wisdoms, the all-accomplishing wisdom, also known as Chadubishe. So that is this is the fundamental. Again, this is the fundamental wisdom, not the enlightened wisdom, ordinary wisdom, in other words. So it's not a real wisdom, but it is called wisdom because the reason we give those perceptions such name as wisdom is because so that we can liken them to the Buddhahood, to the stages that that we will claim, or we will the stages that we will be able to attain at the time of Buddhahood. So it's the idea is to habituate our mind to such stages, such outcomes, to familiarize ourselves with the stages and the abilities of the limitless abilities of the Buddha. So that's why the ability to discern in general is called, which is Dushegi Pumbo, is likened to the Sorto Hishi, or the wisdom of discernment of the Buddha, so on and so forth. So anyway, here we have the all-accomplishing wisdom, the fundamental all-accomplishing wisdom. So in the enlightened state, the all-accomplishing wisdom is the wisdom to provide whatever sentient beings, whatever needs sentient beings are having, so that the Buddha can provide that. But in the fundamental stage, or in the ordinary stage of the ordinary being, this is the ability to, do what we desire to do, get up when we want to get up, sit down when we want to sit down, so on and so forth. So that is likened to the discernment wisdom of the Buddha. So anyway, so that of the 5 wisdoms, the discernment wisdom decreases, dissolves, and so when that happens, you're not able to determine what to do, what is necessary. So, for example, like when people die, they are not able to tell. There are scenes where you go to the person who is dying and ask them, okay, where have you kept all the money and all the, all the checks and all the precious things and so on and so forth. And that person is not able to remember that. So this happens at the stage when water element is dissolving into the earth, water element is dissolving into the wind element. So when that happens, one is not able to one is not able to locate anything. And so at that stage, one does not remember what is to be done, what is not to be done, and so on and so forth. And at that stage, one's the wind energy dissolves into the heart chakra, and at the same time, one's the tongue organs also dissolves, and the sign of that is the tongues become shorter, and the tongues become also the tongues swell and become shorter at the same time. And of course, one is not able to taste anything, and so on and so forth. And at the same time, the touch sense and the taste sense both diminishes, dissolves. So at that time, the internal sign for the sick person, internal sign for the dying person, is that of in Tibetan we say marmetalala. So marmetalala is a flickering light. So let's say there is a flickering light within a cup. So you are not able to see the light itself, but the flicker of the lamp, the flicker of the flame is sometimes seen. Like something like a anyway. So yeah, so you are able. So anyways, the darkness becomes much more acute. So the light, the only light you can see, before you can see something like the fireflies, the light of the fireflies. There's some sort of light there, but now there's no longer any. What you see is only a flicker. Only a flicker of light is seen, and so you're not even able to see the source of the light. Before you were able to see the source of the light in the sense of the fireflies, but now you're not even able to see the source of the light. Just see a flicker, a shade of the light, if you like. So that is what happens. That is the internal sign. And so at that time,
Rinpoche, sorry to interrupt. So we have 5 more minutes before we open it up for Q&A.
Sure. Okay. So as I said, at that time, all the dissolution of the dissolution of the elements happens. So even though it's called that even though they are termed as dissolution of the fire into the earth into the water, and water into the fire, and so on and so forth, they are not literally dissolving into each other, but more in the sense of that one element, the energy or the power of the one element decreases and the other is enhanced. So that is what it's referring to. So at that time, so this is the sort of the the process of the coarser phenomena of the body, which is, in other words, the physical body. So within the physical body, of course, there is the coarse, subtle, and the subtlest. And also with the mind, the consciousness also has the coarse consciousness, subtle consciousness, and the subtlest consciousness. So when these coarse, physical, and coarse bodies dissolve, at the same time, the consciousness, the coarse consciousness, subtle consciousness, and the subtlest consciousness also started dissolving at the same time. So coarse consciousness, of course, is the consciousness that follows our everyday senses, ear, eye. So when we see something with our eyes, actually it is the perception, it is the consciousness within our eyes which sees things, and so on and so forth. So that is the coarse consciousness. And then you have we have our conceptual thoughts, our desire, thinking to do this and that, and so on and so forth. So these kind of, let's say, calculated thoughts, and so on and so forth. When we are planning something, so these are subtle consciousness. And the subtlest consciousness actually happens at the time of, for ordinary beings, it happens at the time of death. Actually, it happens at three or four different stages. One is at the time of death, one is at the time of orgasm, and one is at the time of one is at the time of subconscious stage. No, sorry, unconscious stage. Yeah. So there are three times, the three moments, three periods for ordinary beings to engage in the subtlest consciousness. And at the time of when we are unconscious, of course, so as the name suggests, we are unconscious of what's going on. And even though the subtlest consciousness do appear, we are not able to, we as a person are not able to take control, to make use of our subtlest and then at the time of orgasm, usually we are distracted and it is too short. So the only moment that we could use the subtle consciousness, the subtlest consciousness, the subtlest of this subtle consciousness is at the time of death, which can be lengthened if you are a daily practitioner. Then you can lengthen that process, and at the time of death you can meditate on the subject or the object of your desire, object of your choice, as long as you like, at the time with the subtlest consciousness. And when you do that, the subtlest consciousness is free from all distraction. There is one is able to, when one meditates upon subjects like emptiness or impermanence and so on and so forth with the subtlest mind. The subtlest mind can be understood as the purest of the pure. So mind or consciousness is usually luminous and aware. So that these are the two fundamental qualities of the mind: luminous and aware. And so of all the mind, the subtlest consciousness, um, for this, the subtlest consciousness has these two qualities at its uh, mm, at the peak level. And so because of that, you are aware, you are as luminous can be, luminosity can be, and you are aware as awareness can be, without any disruptions and without any distractions. And so therefore, your concentration on whatever subject whatever subject of meditation that you are choosing to meditate upon becomes as clear as it can be. And this is a great practice to, let's say, jumpstart into enlightenment. So for ordinary beings, what happens is, for ordinary beings, meaning people who do not engage in any practices at all, of course, the subtlest of the subtle consciousness, of course, does appear, but one is not able to take use of that. One will not be able to utilize that subtlest consciousness. Just like the subtlest consciousness does happen during our unconscious state and orgasm stages, but we are not able to take use of that. So the subtlest mind does appear at the time of death, but we will not be able to use it. So what happens during at that time is the five elements of the five wisdoms, the wisdom of Tamidatu also, the fundamental wisdom of Tamidatu appears as well. But this is not to be not same as the actual wisdom of Tamidatu, which you gain at the time of enlightenment. So you're able to fully recognize the Tamidatu, the truth of all phenomena. But here what happens is, this is called the fundamental wisdom of Tamidatu. It is not the wisdom of Tamidatu, but the fundamental wisdom of Tamidatu. Shidugi, shi. So as I said earlier, to put it simply, let's call it ordinary wisdom of Tamidatu. So it's not a real wisdom. But if you have the ability, if you are capable, you could penetrate into. You can you can cut through the illusion, and you can see directly the reality of all phenomena at that stage. And so at that time, uh, the subtlest mind stays for a very short time for ordinary beings. For ordinary beings, it stays for a very, very short time. Could be 10 seconds, 30 seconds, like that. And but if you could use it, as a daily practitioner, if you could use it, you can lengthen that span of time, and you can meditate on that for days and weeks and so on and so forth. And then that's what usually we call the Tuktam stage, the state of meditation at the time of death, Tuktam. So for ordinary people, this can happen at even ordinary beings can stay for 3-4 days at that at the last stage, after the dissolution of all the other all the other elements. Usually the other elements, like the fire into the earth into these, can stay for much longer time. But when all these have dissolved, and when you are at the last stage, which is that of the dissolution of the wind energy. So wind energy is the last one. So dissolution of the wind energy, when the wind energy dissolves into the indestructible essence at the core of our heart, Ninge mishik betile. So the wind energy dissolves into the indestructible essence at the core of our heart. So the indestructible essence is actually a physical entity. And so the physical entity is accompanied by a non-physical entity, which is the subtlest mind, subtlest consciousness. So when the so when all the wind energy dissolves into the subtlest physical entity, which is the indestructible uh, uh, essence or indestructible droplet. So that it is called indestructible in the sense that as long as it remains, you are alive. And at the time of death, this is destroyed or dissolves. So when that dissolves, the indestructible essence at the core of heart acts as the base for the non-physical entity, which is the subtlest form of consciousness to branch on. So when that diminishes, when the subtlest physical entity, which is the indestructible essence, diminishes, then the subtlest non-physical entity of subtlest consciousness, also dissolves, and then one passes into the next into the death, into the Pardo stage. I think yeah, I'll stop here for now.
Thank you so much, Rinpoche. And we understand this is a huge topic that can't be covered within an hour. So, but with the given time, I think we'd like to open it up to questions if any of the attendees have any. And I see that there's some on the chat. So maybe Rinpoche, if you can see that, or I can read it out loud. So there's one question that an attendee asked, is there injunctions in Pardo for or against organ donations or tattoos? So are there any rules against donating organs or getting tattoos?
Actually, I didn't see anything that is descriptively clear, saying that one should not be doing tattoos on or so on and so forth. But usually we were told that our teachers usually advise us against doing snuff, nata, so that will actually clog the veins, and then if you are a tantric practitioner, that will actually, so once your veins or the channels are clogged, once your physical coarser level, the coarse physical channels are clogged, then of course the more subtle channels are also some way affected, and so therefore you will have a harder time channeling your wind energies through those channels. And so that may happen. I mean, of course, with tattoos always carry that kind of risk, not even in the tantric practices, but also in general life. Like when you do a tattoo, sometimes you do it wrong and it cuts a vein and so on, something like that. That might happen. So it's important, I think, to avoid the veins. Important to it's important to avoid like critical sections of veins, so that one is not harmed even in the non-religious stage. And so even though it doesn't harm the Pardo stage in the Pardo stage, or the doesn't really affect the death process, but it does have a certain effect on the channeling of your wind energies if you are a tantric practitioner. So for for the death process to happen, doesn't really have that much of an adverse effect. But for a tantric practitioner who is channeling wind energies, who has to channel wind energies through one's body, which actually has to go through coarser channels, which is the wind, the winds, that will have a certain effect if you do it the wrong way.
Thank you, Rinpoche. And I think the question was also, is there anything against organ donations? Are there any rules against donating organs?
No, there isn't.
Lessa. So the second question is, the period between death and rebirth lasts 49 days. Is that the duration of a Buddhist mourning period? In addition, is there a meaning behind the number 49?
Yeah, sure. So absolutely. So this is Dende Yana Juni, so the 12 dependent links, right? So so 12 dependent links, you have the 12, so 12 dependent links is the cycle of how life is formed, even before even before birth, how life is formed. First you have the ignorance through which you accumulate a karma, and that actually makes you have a birth, and then the birth process begins, and then you start growing old and dying. So the 12 dependent links. So within in the sutras of the 12 dependent links. So when we usually talk about the 12 dependent links, this is very clearly said that the person, when a person dies, the time the Pardo, the Pardo body, Pardo the Pardo, the Pardo birth or the Pardo life or the Pardo body usually but the Pardo usually Pardo body is actually akin to the life that was already just passed away. So if you are born, if you are animal who just died and is now in the Pardo stage, your life, your body is akin to that of our animal. And one more advantage is that Pardo does not rely on raw food, and can actually go anywhere they like. So they can actually apparate. They can magically appear. If they want to go to America, they can just think of it and just go, just appear there. Go to India, go to their honor's place, go to their native place, wherever they want to go, they can just apparate and appear there just like that. Um, at the same time, the Pardo is also looking for a place, a spot to enter. So in simpler terms, it's looking for a place to take birth, to take birth in. So usually we have the uh, the dying body, the Pardo body, or the intermediate body, the dying body, the intermediate body, and the birth body. Uh, the birth body meaning the person to whom which you're going to be born as. So the lifespan of the Pardo body, lifespan of the living body is determined by that person's karma. The lifespan of a Pardo is not determined by karma, but it is actually definite. Uh, um, the lifespan of the Pardo does not cross over a week. So the lifespan of a Pardo is only 7 days. A Pardo. So the lifespan of a Pardo is 7 days, and it has the uh, um, it has the option, if you like, or not the option, but it has the ability to take 7 lifetimes. So meaning 7 sevens. So 7 7 is 49. So the reason we do the 49 days is because the Pardo lives up to 7 days, and we are not sure whether they are born yet or not. So we do prayer for them for 49 days. So a person dies and may be born the next day, or the very instant they are born into the paradise Dewa Jingxing, or as a human being, or in the hell realm, or whatever, or they are still stuck in the Pardo realm. They may still be they still may be stuck in the Pardo realm. Uh, so the Pardo realm lives up to only 7 days. So after a week, the Pardo, so let's say the Pardo of a dog, the Pardo of a dog dies after 7 days, no more than 7 days. So it dies, and then it's born again in the Pardo realm. It apparates in the Pardo realm again, then again looking for a spot to enter. So, yeah, I just saw a question here. What is the boundary of the Pardo, right?
Uh,
So, yeah,
yes.
yeah. So yeah, I will just cover that as well. So the question is, what is the boundary of Pardo? Can it be described within the context of our planet, galaxy, or is it not defined by a specific physical location? So it is said that the boundary of Pardo is, there are only two boundaries for Pardo. One is the mother's womb, and the other one is uh, um, the Vajrasana Bodhgaya. Um, so that actually requires a lengthy description and explanation. Um, uh, it's actually um, barricaded by, limited by two physical sort of entities, two physical boundaries. One is mother's womb, and the other is the uh, Vajrasana Dojite, Jaga Dojite. Anyway, so the mother's womb. So as I said, so they are actually related. What I was talking about earlier. So it takes 1 week for the Pardo. The lifespan of a Pardo is only 1 week. After that 1 week, it dies and then it appears again. Then 1 week, and it repeats for 7 weeks. So since we are not sure whether the person is born yet or not, so we keep praying for them until the 49th, just to make sure. So the Pardo can find a place to enter, a womb to enter, to be more specific, within within a within a few moments after the death. And when that happens, so this has to actually rely on the not just the Pardos. So the Pardo is actually the Pardo body is actually acting as the uh, modem medium for carrying the consciousness of the person to be born as. Kisi, the body of the birth, life body, right? Sorry, birth, birth life, Pardo life, birth life, and intermediate life, in birth life, intermediate life, and death life. So from the death life, the death life transitions into the birth life through the intermediary life. So at the intermediary life, the Pardo life is always looking for a place to be born, a place, uh, uh, a birth life. It is always looking for a kiwe siba, kisi, a birth life. But for that to happen, a lot of things has to come into take place. So um, there has to be the father, the mother, the parents, and all the karma of the parents and the child to be born as all has to come together. Otherwise, the 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 intermediary life cannot take the birth of an intermediary life cannot take place into a birth life. In other words, the Pardo life cannot enter the womb of the mother. For that to happen, the mother has to have the, let's say, the karma, the karmic connection with the child to be born as her child, and so on and so forth. So when that happens, the um, the the child is born. The Pardo life can enter only when only when all the collective karmic debts were put together, were cleared off. When all the collective karmic debts were cleared off, then the Pardo life can uh, take Pardo life can take the birth life. Pardo life can enter the womb of the mother.
Rinpoche, so there's one more question in the chat. So it's from Sigrid, who asked, when fundamental wisdom of Dharmadatta tries to remain for a long time, does that affect your next life, such as reaching samadhi easier?
Can you repeat that again, please? When the wisdom. Yep.
So when fundamental wisdom of Dharmadatta tries remain for a long time, does that affect your next life, such as reaching samadhi easier?
Of course, it does. So it's like, normally when we want to meditate, when we are fed up with the crazy world, crazy life, whatever we call it, then we go to, we take hermitages, we go to meditation, we go to the monasteries to do our practice, and so on and so forth. So what we are trying to do is we are trying to get rid of all the distractions that is actually pulling us here and there, that is disturbing our awareness, disturbing our attention, and so on and so forth, right? So at the time of death, at the stage of at the time of death, especially during the stages when your the wind elements dissolve into the indestructible essence at the heart, during which your mind, if you were a practitioner, you can actually engage in the practice of meditation by utilizing the subtlest consciousness, and during which what is known as the Dharmadhatu, fundamental Dharmadhatu, the fundamental wisdom of Dharmadhatu also occurs. So at that time, if you could meditate, that is you can call it the most isolated time for you to practice. So there is no disturbances of any kind, and you're giving 100%. So you're using all the potential. You are using your mind's full potential, 100% of the mind's potential to upon reaching your goal. So at that time, whatever you meditate upon, it will actually, as I said in the earlier, so it will jumpstart you. So you'll be able to jumpstart your practices. So because at that time there are no disturbances of any kind at all, because even though all things are happening outside, your doors to the outside worlds are closed. In Tibetan we say "Wangbyug Go," right? Doors of the organ. So the organs are like the doors to the outside world. You have the eyes to see. If you don't have an eye, even if you have an eye consciousness does not work. So we say people who are blind actually does have eye consciousness, but since their eye organs are faulted, they were not able to see. So so when all the organs are closed now, so all the doors and windows are closed, so therefore you are fully isolated. So you are in a truly silent sphere. And so whatever you do with your mind, you are doing, you are giving your mind, you are using, you are utilizing, you are harnessing your mind's full potential. And so isn't there saying something like that we are using only like 4% or something of our brain, that if you're able to use more than that, then we will be able to achieve great things. So at the at this stage, actually, we are able to use the full potential of our mind. So because of that, your mind, so you are able to achieve great things. Whatever you are concentrating on, whatever you are contemplating on, you will be able to see it thoroughly and steer through all the illusions.
Thank you, Rinpoche. And so there's one last question. They said that from my understanding, it is possible to be left in Pardo much longer. Rinpoche, would you be able to speak on that?
Sure. So there is a so it is very clearly said in the sutras that the Pardo life is only for 7 weeks, no more than that. The limitation. So there is a so there is a sort of like a debate. You know, it's more or less like a monastic debate actually. So the debate is that what determines the life of a Pardo. So since the Pardo life is only 1 week, right? So 1 week in the sense of what? In the sense of the life that is already spent or the life that is going to be spent. That is, so in other words, in the death life or in the birth life, in the preceding life or in the forthcoming life. So are we counting the life in the are we counting the lifespan of a Pardo in the forthcoming life or in the preceding life? So um, what happens here is that for a god realm, for example, uh, for example, 50 years of a human life is akin to 1 day of the lowest god realm. I think that is Gandhi. Um, the so the um, bliss, the land of bliss. I think that is the name of the that is the name of the heaven. So there are 32 stages of heavenly realms. So of the lowest of Gajen Rikshi. So the lowest of the 30 the lowest heavenly realm is known as Gajen Rikshi. That is the realm of the Gajen Rikshi. So in that 1 day of the Gajen Rikshi is actually 50 years of a human life. So some people say, so there's an argument as the questioner just asked. So some people have like were able to see their parents or their loved ones even after a long time after they're dead and so on and so forth. So they think they may be born as, I mean, they're still in the Pardo Ram stuck and so on and so forth. And then so because of that, there is a debate, actually a very heated debate in the monastic curriculum and in the monastic circles about how this happens. Maybe it's the life of a, how do you determine the lifespan? In Tibetan, we say "kangi kongsu toba." So does it belong to the lifespan of the Pardo Ram belongs to the preceding life or to the forthcoming life? So if you are an animal in the Pardo state, uh, going forward to be born as uh, as a as a god in the godly realm, then since the 1 day of a godly realm is 50 years of a human life, which means I think 500 years of the animal life, right? So usually a dog living up to 15 or 18 is similar to a man living up to 80 years, so like that. So in this regard, uh, so there is a heated argument whether the lifespan of how do we calculate the lifespan of a Pardo realm? Does it belong to the forthcoming life, or does it belong to the preceding life? But actually, even though it's not clearly stated in the sutras, the Buddhist teaching itself, but many scholars say that they belong to um, the forthcoming life. They belong to the forthcoming life. So they belong to the preceding life. So that means so there's a great argument here again, because if it is the preceding life, then a person, a human being, after dying, after their death of 49, after 49 days after their death, then they will have to be born somewhere. They cannot remain in the Pardo realm any longer. And so my interpretation, my understanding is that people who are able to see their parents or their loved ones even after maybe 20 years and years and years, I think their loved ones are not exactly stuck in the Pardo realm, but they are born in the demigod realms. They're not born in human realm. They're not born in the animal realm, but they're stuck in. They're born in demigod realms, Lamai, and a spirit realm, in other words, and uh, and um, and because of that, they identify themselves as Pardoa, because Pardo, the intermediate state, the life of an intermediate state, actually belongs to the demigod realm, because of they belong to the spirit realm. They belong to the spirit realm. They so the realm of the Pardoa and the realm of spirits in general, demigods in general, are similar. So since they are kind of lost souls, they believe themselves to be still stuck in Pardo, and it's a disillusion that they have, which they share with their loved ones when they visit them. So I don't think they are actually stuck in Pardo state, but they believe themselves to be stuck in the Pardo state, and that's why they are lost souls, uh, believing that they are stuck in the Pardo and then suffering in that stage. And of course, for them, we need to do. That's why it's important to. It's helpful always to do prayer for them, even though they are not stuck in the Pardo realm. They're still stuck in, you know, samsaric spirit world, and so therefore they should be. Their lives should be alleviated.
Awesome. Thank you, Rinpoche. So I see one more question, if Rinpoche has time, but before I read that question, I just wanted to point everyone out to the survey link that we posted on the chat. If you guys could kindly fill that out, that would really help us prepare for our future sessions. Rinpoche, there's one last question. If you have time, it seems like a short one. So they asked, if you have a near-death experience, would you find yourself in the Pardo stage?
Oh, so yeah, very good, very good question. So the clear answer is no. You don't. So par is intermediate. So in order to be in the par, in order to be in the middle, you actually need to exit one of the two extremes. The two extremes, the two edges being birth and death. So either you have to die, or you have to exit death in order to be in the intermediate stage. So unless you actually die, you will not be in the Pardo state. And when you die, all the accumulation of the lifespan, the karmic so all the karmic debt and the lifespan of your previous life, of your dying life, is all depleted, all used up. So you cannot go back to that stage. So near-death experience, I think it's a of course, near-death experience is a Tibet. It's a Western sort of explanation or exploration of what is death and so on and so forth. So it's not a is not native to Tibetan or any dharmic culture. So what does happen, we understand, is that during near-death experiences, we actually go through the unconscious stage. We actually go through the unconscious stage, and so then we have experiences of different things and so on and so forth. And we do not, so as I said earlier, to put it clearly, when we have near-death experiences, we are not going through, we do not have experiences of Pardo, because Pardo in Tibetan, I mean, in the text, Kesi, Chisi, Parsi. So there are three different lives. Pardo life is a different set of life. Chisi, Chive Siba is a different set of life. Death life, we call it Chisi. Pardo Siba, Parsi, we call it the Pardo life. And Kesi, we call it the birth life. So there are, so Chisi and Kesi are the two ages. Birth life and death life are two ages. And in order to be in the Pardo life, you have to exit either of the two. That's all.
So thank you so much, Rinpoche. So I think with that, we will end the Q&A session and today's January Lakar session here. We wanted to thank Rinpoche so much for sharing your valuable time and your knowledge in taking us through this very complex concept of Pardo. And then also for sticking around for, for an extra 15 minutes to answer our questions. So thank you so much, Rinpoche La. And then I also wanted to thank all our attendees for sticking through the entire session and for joining us late into the evening today. We hope you can join more of our sessions in the future. And I just wanted to share our social media link. Oh, seems like I cannot share it, but we have social media on Facebook, YouTube, as well as Instagram. So please do follow us for any future events and updates on future events. So thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone.
So, thank you for your attention, all of you. Thank you so much.
So, and I'll end the session now. Thank you.